In the misty village of Takayama, nestled among steep mountains and lush bamboo forests, lived a young boy named Akio. Akio was not like the other children in the village. He was small for his age, with unruly hair and a habit of staring at the ground when he walked. The village was a place of harmony and tradition, where respect was earned through strength and bravery. Akio, with his timid demeanor and shy nature, struggled to find his place among the villagers and often felt like an outsider. Despite his quiet nature, Akio had big dreams. He admired the village's warriors with their finely crafted armor and confident strides. He imagined himself one day standing tall beside them, wishing to be as respected and as fearless as they were, but his attempts to fit in always fell short. Yet, the more he tried to copy them, the more he felt like an imposter. He'd trip over his own feet during training exercises, his voice would tremble when he tried to speak up, and he was prone to blushing at the slightest attention. The other villagers mocked him, calling him Akio the Timid. Each day, the weight of these small humiliations pressed on him, eroding his confidence bit by bit. One day, a renowned warrior named Takeshi came to the village. Takeshi was everything Akio aspired to be: tall, confident, and commanding. The villagers gathered to hear his stories of battles fought and victories won. Akio stood at the back, eyes wide with awe, absorbing every word. Takeshi spoke of the importance of projecting strength, of maintaining a facade that exuded confidence. This, he said, was the key to respect and success. Akio took these words to heart and decided to follow Takeshi's advice. He crafted a persona, a mask to hide his insecurities and would make him appear confident and strong. He practiced walking with his head held high, forced himself to speak with authority, and even adopted a new name hoping it would give him courage. For a while, it seemed to work. The villagers began to take notice, complimenting his newfound confidence. Akio felt a rush of validation, but deep down he knew it was all an act. Deep inside, he still felt like the shy, insecure boy who preferred the shadows. The pressure to maintain the mask grew with each passing day. Akio spent hours practicing his warrior face in front of a mirror, trying to perfect his facade. The more he tried to uphold the mask, the more he neglected his true self, and the more he felt disconnected from those around him. Akio also felt increasingly detached from himself, as if he were living someone else's life. He stopped visiting his mother, avoiding her gentle eyes that seemed to see through his mask. His anxiety grew, and he began to withdraw from his friends, fearing they would see through his facade. One evening, during a village celebration, Akio's mask shattered. The festivities were lively, with music and laughter filling the air. Akio had been asked to demonstrate a martial arts routine before the entire village. It was his chance to prove himself, to solidify his place among the warriors. But as he stepped onto the stage, his nerves betrayed him. His hands trembled and his knees felt weak. He stumbled and fell, knocking over a table and sending food and drinks flying. The crowd burst into laughter. The shame and humiliation were overwhelming, and Akio fled into the forest, tears streaming down his face. The laughter and mockery echoed in his ears, each sound a sharp reminder of his failure. As Akio was running through the forest, he stumbled over roots and fell to his knees, sobbing in despair. The weight of his shame was unbearable. The mask he had worked so hard to maintain had crumbled, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. In the depths of the forest, Akio found himself before a small hut, hidden among the trees. It belonged to Jiro, an old hermit who lived in seclusion, practicing ancient wisdom. Jiro was known for his understanding of the human psyche and his ability to see into the hearts of others. He invited Akio inside, offering him a cup of tea and a warm blanket. The two sat in silence, the crackling fire in the hearth the only sound in the room. Jiro eventually spoke, his voice gentle yet firm. "Why do you hide, young one?" he asked. Akio hesitated, then poured out his heart, recounting his struggles to fit in, his desire to be accepted, and the shame he felt after the festival. Jiro listened intently, nodding as Akio spoke, never once interrupting. "Ah, the mask," Jiro said, slowly putting his teacup down. It is a burden many carry, but the mask is fragile, and when it shatters, we are left with our shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide because we fear they are unacceptable. Akio looked up, confused. "The shadow?" he asked. Jiro nodded. "Yes, the shadow. It holds our fears, doubts, and rejections, but it also holds our hidden potential. To find true strength, you must embrace your shadow and learn to understand it." Akio was skeptical. He had spent so long rejecting his flaws, believing they made him weak. Jiro sensed his hesitation and suggested a simple practice: meditation. He instructed Akio to sit in silence each day, allowing his thoughts to flow without judgment. Through this practice, Jiro said, Akio would begin to understand his shadow and uncover the parts of himself that he had suppressed. Akio followed Jiro's advice. Each morning he sat by the forest stream, meditating in silence. At first his thoughts raced with self-doubt and memories of his past failures, but as he continued the practice, he began to see glimpses of his shadow, the fears and insecurities he had buried deep within. He wrote down his thoughts, exploring the emotions and experiences that had shaped his life. The process was not easy. Akio often felt overwhelmed by the intensity of his emotions. He confronted painful memories, acknowledged his fears, and accepted his imperfections. But as the days passed and he delved deeper into his shadow, he began to see the beauty in his imperfections. He discovered something remarkable. His shadow contained not just his fears, but also his creativity, compassion, and hidden talents. It was a reservoir of potential waiting to be tapped. With each passing day, Akio grew more comfortable with his shadow. He realized that the parts of himself he had hidden were the very things that made him unique. He began to embrace his authenticity, no longer trying to be someone he was not. He started to find joy in simple things, like watching the sun rise over the mountains or listening to the songs of birds. As he grew more comfortable with his shadow, he felt a sense of wholeness that he had never known before. He reconnected with his mother, sharing his journey with her, and found comfort in her understanding eyes. The villagers noticed the change in Akio. His newfound authenticity drew people to him, not because he was pretending to be confident, but because he was unapologetically himself. He no longer needed to maintain a mask. He was content with who he was. He no longer sought approval or validation. Instead, he embraced his journey of self-discovery. The village elders, who had once dismissed him, now invited him to share his insights and experiences with the younger generation. Akio's journey of shadow work continued for many months. He faced setbacks and moments of doubt, but he never gave up. He learned to confront his shadow instead of fearing it, knowing that it held the key to his hidden potential. The more he embraced his shadow, the more he found inner peace and strength. By integrating his shadow, Akio became a source of inspiration for others in the village. He helped others see that embracing their flaws and imperfections was not a sign of weakness, but of true courage. The story of Akio's transformation spread throughout the village, becoming a tale of hope and resilience. It was a reminder that the journey to wholeness is not without its challenges, but it is a path worth walking. As Akio stood at the edge of the forest watching the sun rise over the mountains, he knew that his journey had just begun, but he was no longer afraid of the shadows. He had learned to accept them as a part of himself, as a companion on his path to authenticity, and in doing so he had found a path towards wholeness. The journey of shadow work had given him the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that his shadow was not his enemy but his ally. With each step, Akio grew stronger, his journey serving as a beacon of hope for those who dared to embrace their own shadows. And as the village continued its ancient traditions, the story of Akio's shadow work would be passed down through generations, inspiring others to find their own light in the darkness. The story of Akio's journey through shadow work to find his authentic self carries profound lessons for all of us. In many ways, Akio's experience mirrors the teachings of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist who revolutionized the understanding of the human psyche. Jung's concept of the shadow is central to his theory of analytical psychology, and it reminds us that we all have a dark side, those parts of ourselves we hide or repress because we believe they are uncomfortable or socially unacceptable. This fear leads us to divide our personality into two halves: the conscious half, where we construct an ideal image of ourselves, and the unconscious half, where we repress the aspects we view as unacceptable. In Jungian psychology, the repressed part of our personality is known as the shadow. By suppressing it, we deny an essential part of ourselves, creating an artificial view of who we are. This division leads to inner turmoil and a lack of authenticity, resulting in a life of regret rather than one of fulfillment. Akio's struggle with his persona, the constructed mask of confidence, shows how easily we can fall into the trap of living inauthentically to gain approval from others. In modern times, it's common to present only the best aspects of our lives, especially on social media and other platforms where we can carefully curate our image. People project an idealized image of their lives, hiding their imperfections and struggles. This one-sided portrayal creates a distorted view of reality, leading to feelings of inadequacy and disappointment. The more we suppress our shadow, the more we feel disconnected from ourselves and others. This can manifest as depression, anxiety, or a sense of emptiness, as we saw with Akio. Shadow work, as Jung suggested, is a journey into the depths of our subconscious, where we can discover not only our fears and insecurities, but also our hidden talents and potential. This integration involves embracing the uncomfortable parts of ourselves and acknowledging that we are not perfect. It's a journey that requires courage, as it involves facing our fears and admitting our weaknesses. By acknowledging our shadow, we gain a more holistic view of who we are. We realize that our flaws are not only weaknesses, but rather unique aspects of our personality that can contribute to our growth. Akio's journey illustrates that the shadow is not inherently evil. It contains both darkness and light. It is when we misunderstand or ignore our shadow that it becomes hostile or destructive. This can lead to a fragmented existence, where we miss out on the opportunity to grow and realize our true potential. However, by confronting our shadow with compassion and curiosity, we can transform it into an ally. This transformation is an essential part of your spiritual awakening, as it requires us to see beyond our own judgments and societal expectations. This is how we open the door to real growth. This is what Akio's story ultimately teaches us. The path to self-improvement starts with self-acceptance. The more we embrace our shadow and integrate it into our personality, the more complete and authentic we become. Incorporating shadow work into our lives involves several key practices: meditation and self-reflection. Like Akio, we can use meditation to observe our thoughts without judgment, allowing our subconscious to reveal itself. Shadow work requires radical honesty with ourselves, acknowledging our flaws, and accepting responsibility for our actions. Jung believed that our dreams offer valuable insights into our subconscious. By keeping a dream journal, we can gain a deeper understanding of our shadow and the symbols it presents. Will we live in a world of hypotheticals, clinging to the safety of our idealized self-image, or will we take the risk of failing in actuality to become the best version of ourselves? The choice is ours, and the journey of shadow work is the path that leads us towards wholeness and true fulfillment.